Hey folks, today we're covering Tinto Talks 88, and this week Johan's going to be talking to us about what we should expect from the team in the run-up to Christmas. As he says at the beginning of this, since the game was released, they've released a few patches for the game, most of this for crashing issues, some bug fixes, and some other minor changes as well, and hopefully you have seen improvements to the game if you have been playing after these patches came out. One thing he does call out here though is on the patch on Monday, they did add a setting into the game where you can maximize the tick speed of the game over the FPS settings of the game. So this will allow the game to run faster. It might look a little bit less stable later on in the game, but for most people I've seen, this makes the game run a lot faster. So you might want to try this out if you haven't already. You can find this in the game settings next time you're in game. And then as he says that the core team has been working on the next patch, which is now with the QA team and will probably come out at the beginning of next week. He just said there's over 700 lines of fixes in this, and he's going to call out the main features of this patch. Obviously next week, we'll get the full patch notes and I'll cover those on the channel. But the main things he wanted to point out is population demands rework, where the wealth impacts the type of goods people want. And I think this is mostly around things like tribesmen and peasants wanting rice when they live in Wales or something. Like, how would they even know that really was a thing they should want? So they're going to change that. And I'm sure a bunch of other things as well. But making this system work a little bit more fairly, so you're not getting population satisfaction issues from population wanting goods that they wouldn't even really know exist yet. So that is something you'll probably see changed next week. The second change they're going to do, you can now decide how much you want your population to starve if you don't have enough food and don't want to keep buying food to make up that shortfall. I'm sure you've all had this problem. You take over a new province usually, it doesn't have any food, and then you have to pay ridiculous amounts of money to get that food into that province, when ultimately you might think, do you know what, I don't mind if I lose like 10% of my population. I'd rather do that than lose like 300 ducats a month paying for food. So it looks like we're going to be able to put a slider maybe and say, look, I want like 80% of the required food paid for. The other 20% I don't care about. Yes, it's a little bit evil, but you know what? You do need to keep your country running as well. So it looks like that's going to come in next week, and we'll see how that plays out as well. And then the third change is cores will no longer instantly disappear. So this should help with the Emperor not getting exclaves around the world, so just changing how coring systems work. And then the last, obviously the most important change, characters will no longer all be clean-shaven, so we'll finally get some beards in the game, and that will give a little bit of variety to how your leaders and different characters look. I know all of you really like the 3D portrait system. And then going further from this, the weekly patches for the rest of the year, they're going to highlight some changes they want to make as well. So further AI improvements, I'm sure there's a lot of AI improvements they could make. And then the second one is quality of life in the UI, especially easier ways to upgrade buildings. I can't wait for this to come in. One of the most annoying things in this game, I'm currently doing a game as Marley. I've got like 91 marketplaces. When I get the next upgrade for marketplaces, I've then got to go through this weird UI system to try upgrade them. There should be a button where I can just press upgrade all buildings in this location to whatever the highest version of that building is. It's super annoying to go in, try upgrade buildings. I don't want to build more of these buildings than the marketplaces I have, but I've got to go in and look, okay, it's got 7 marketplaces. I'll build 7 merchant quarters, and that'll just upgrade the ones I have. So this is going to be a great change. The UI system for building buildings, I think, does need some changes as well. There are some options. Many of you might not have noticed it. In the left-hand side, you can actually change how the buildable buildings are listed. You can change it, so instead of just being a whole big list of them, you can divide it a little bit more like EU4 had it, like construction buildings, navy buildings, production buildings, things like that. So hopefully we'll see some UI improvements around that as well. The next one, performance, stability, and multiplayer improvements. I will say I've never played multiplayer in any Europa Universalis game, and I'm probably not going to start in EU5. I just can't imagine playing a whole multiplayer game in this game. It takes so long to play through. Let me know in the comments if you are doing a multiplayer game though. Obviously, performance and stability, the better that can get, the better for everybody. The next changes are improvements to China and other parts of the world not working as they should. I'm sure Japan and how that plays out as well, probably a big part of these changes. So hopefully if you enjoy playing in that part of the world, you will see some improvements in the near future as well. I'm sure there's other places, but China and Japan really play out a little bit weird. So hopefully that does get some improvements. The next one is improvements to localization. Obviously, we want everyone to be able to play the game in the language they choose, and it does work properly, so that's going to be some improvements there as well. And then the last one, just as much bug fixing as possible. So all those reports we're giving, all the things they've noticed, just trying to get as many bug fixes in as possible and get that out to us before the Christmas break. They do say after that, though, the next big update is going to be 1.1, and that is going to be released early in February for changes that are a little bit more risky and take longer to develop. I think this will probably be minor reworks for certain areas. I think the situation system needs a bit of a rework. so hopefully that will be part of this as well. They are focusing though on adding some more content for German regions, new clothes, hats and wigs for 18th century Europeans, and new improved UIs for army and mercenary recruitment, and much, much more. Let me know in the comments down below which systems that you've played through at the moment do you think they really need to focus on and give some kind of rework to. As I said, I think the situation system, I see how it's supposed to work, the War of Religions, the 100 Years' War, all the different situations you have in the game, but they just feel like something doesn't work properly. I don't know if you're like me. The 100 Years' War, for example, has like 4 or 5 different options you can select to do these different actions, but I never feel like you can ever do any of them, at least when you're playing as England anyway. So hopefully the whole situation system gets some kind of rework maybe. I think it just needs to be a little bit more interactable. I think even as a player, you often feel like situations are just playing out and you have no control over them, even if you're directly involved with them. So we'll see if that is something they focus on, or as I said, let me know in the comments down below, which improvements or changes do you want to see? I'm sure many of you will say, can the Pope please stop colonizing everywhere? That would be a good change. And then the last thing they're going to talk about, yes, it's Paradox, the first DLC, Fate of the Phoenix. I'll put that up on the screen at the moment. They've started the process of designing how this DLC will work, and they're going to base this on the feedback we've already given, the parts of the game that we enjoy. It looks like they're going to lean into that for these first set of DLC. So again, let me know in the comments, what kind of content do you want to see for this? How do you want to see this playing out for DLC? Do you want ahistorical content, being able to reform the Roman Empire? Well, obviously, it is the Roman Empire. Let's not get into that argument. But, you know, the full Roman Empire. Do you want to be able to do that a little bit better? Or do you want some other, like, historical events, major events that happened? Obviously, the fall of Constantinople, things like that. And how we're going to see that played out in the game as well. But with that, we'll leave it there for today. Just a quick video giving these updates to you. So hit the like button if you've enjoyed it. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I've been covering EU5 since it was first announced. I've covered all the dev diaries, all the patch notes, everything like that. So if you're enjoying the game and you want to keep up to date with everything, do subscribe. And I also cover Crusader Kings 3 in a very similar manner. So if you're playing that game or think you might enjoy playing that game, there's a bunch of content around that as well. But we'll leave it there for today, and I'll see you all next time.